Well, speaking of Amber Heard, she actually just hired a new legal team in her appeal against Johnny Depp. She is replacing her trial lawyer, Elaine Bredehoft, with First Amendment attorneys David Axelrod and Jay Ward Brown. So they released a statement saying, "We welcome the opportunity to represent Ms. Heard in this appeal, as it is a case with important First Amendment implications for every American. We're confident the appellate court will apply the law properly without deference to popularity, reverse the judgment against Ms. Heard, and reaffirm the fundamental principles of freedom of speech." So why would she fire? I mean, obviously she lost the case, but why would she fire her trial attorneys? Is that something that's unusual when going into appeal?
It's not unusual, but there's a couple of reasons. One, respectfully, Elaine Bredehoft didn't do that good of a job. We all saw her on social media fumbling over even some of the most basic objections. And the skill sets required to be a trial lawyer to argue to a jury are very different from those who argue appeals. Appellate lawyers tend to be better writers. You're dealing with judges as opposed to jurors who are ordinary people. So oftentimes there are lawyers who do trial work and there's lawyers that do appellate work. So it's not surprising that Amber Heard, with her back against the wall and looking at a multi-million-dollar judgment, is trying to hire a top-notch appellate team, especially when you're dealing with the First Amendment, which is a very niche issue under the law.
Yeah. So what exactly is a First Amendment attorney? Is that a clear title for somebody?
Yeah, this is an attorney that understands the First Amendment, particularly free speech. And what Amber Heard is trying to argue is that her op-ed in the Washington Post was protected by the First Amendment. Therefore, it can't be defamatory. If an appellate court agrees with her, then they may vacate Johnny Depp's judgment and either dismiss the case entirely or send it back for a new jury trial. So it's a little bit of a Hail Mary, but her back is against the wall. Amber Heard doesn't seem to have the assets to pay this judgment. I don't think she's working right now, doesn't have a whole lot of property. And these types of claims generally aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. If you do an intentional act, something that's malicious, Chapter 7, 11, or 13 won't get rid of that debt. So her appeal is her best chance, even though it's not a good chance, of getting this judgment reversed.
Yeah, I mean, that was my next question. I mean, like you said, this is kind of like a Hail Mary. This is probably not going to work in her favor.
Probably not. And, there are legal reasons why she's doing this. We've talked about that big judgment, but also PR reasons. I mean, she came out looking so bad after the trial. It's going to be very hard to get work, certainly by any major Hollywood studio, because a lot of folks would boycott any role that she's in. So she needs to try to get this judgment reversed, come back for a new trial, and maybe she'll do better the second time around.
Right. I mean, like you said, how, like you said, you can't chapter file for bankruptcy. So how will she pay this $10 million? I mean, does that happen a lot where, you get these huge settlements and these people can't pay the money? So what does happen in those cases?
Yeah, what happens is, and it's ultimately up to Johnny Depp, is he really going to try to enforce this judgment and go after his ex-wife? But if he wants to do so, there's usually three ways to do so. First is garnish wages. Well, Amber Heard has to be working for those wages to be garnished. Second is levy bank accounts, which is to take money out of her bank account. Third is attach and sell real property, like a home or a condo that she may own. Again, I don't think she has the assets. I don't know if Elon Musk is going to step up and pay this off for her, or she's going to sue her lawyer who actually advised her to go ahead and move forward with this op-ed. But I don't think she's got millions of dollars sitting around in a bank account somewhere to pay off Johnny Depp.
No, I don't think so either. Do you feel like he will go after her for this money, or do you think that it was just a principle for him getting the legal win?
I think it was more the principle and for him to clear his name. He had essentially been canceled, right? Now that his reputation has been restored and he's one of the most sought after actors in Hollywood, I mean, he can make this on one movie or one big endorsement. So I don't think Johnny Depp is actually going to try to collect this money, but we'll see. If Amber Heard keeps pursuing this, she keeps making defamatory statements, maybe he tries to teach her a lesson. And these judgments under Virginia law, they're good for 10 years and they can be renewed for another 10-year term.
I know that there was probably so many things that you probably would have done differently in this case, but what was kind of like the one glaring thing that went wrong in this case that you would have done differently?
I think Amber Heard needed to be more honest and likable. She lied about things that really weren't relevant to the case, like donating the $7 million to charity. Had she just said, listen, folks, I was planning to do so, I was sued by my ex-husband. I needed the money to pay for my lawyers. I think that would have been more believable than for her to say that she pledged it, or for her to say that she didn't tip off TMZ when it was clear that the video came from her phone. Again, these were issues that had nothing to do with her being the victim of domestic violence. Same thing with drug abuse. She only said that she used it one time on the plane. I think if she was a little more honest about some things that weren't necessarily relevant to the claims in the case, she would have come across more likable and more credible. And also when it came to the abuse, I think she made a mistake by saying that she only hit Depp once. I think it was clear that it was a mutually violent, toxic, volatile relationship. And had she come in with a little bit more nuance and said, listen, this was something that I bear some responsibility for. I was violent on occasions. I too abused drugs and alcohol. I was verbally abusive. It was mutually abusive. We were both victims. I think she would have gotten a lot farther with her jurors, Christina.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.